The entire boardroom fell silent the moment the powerful CEO closed the glass door behind them. The afternoon sun poured through the skyscraper windows, painting golden streaks across the polished floor, but nothing could warm the icy fear racing through Owen Carter's heart. He was only a maintenance supervisor, a widowed single father who spent every waking hour trying to give his little daughter a better life. He expected a discussion about work. Instead, the woman everyone feared looked directly into his eyes and quietly said something that made time stop. She wanted a baby, and somehow, she wanted his help. Before we begin this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Legacy. Every act of support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world compassion can change lives. Owen Carter had never imagined his ordinary life would collide with someone like Celeste Rowan. At 34 years old, Owen's days revolved around repairing elevators, fixing electrical systems inside Rowan Global headquarters, and rushing home before sunset to his 7-year-old daughter Ivy. Ever since his wife passed away from a sudden illness 4 years earlier, life had become a constant balancing act between work, parenting, grief, and hope. Every dollar mattered. Every smile from Ivy became the fuel that kept him moving. Unlike the executives occupying the top floors, Owen never noticed luxury anymore. His attention stayed fixed on broken lights, leaking pipes, malfunctioning air conditioning systems, and the framed photograph of Ivy that rested inside his worn toolbox. Employees often whispered about Celeste Rowan. She had inherited Rowan Global after her father's unexpected death and transformed it into one of the country's fastest-growing technology companies. Newspapers called her brilliant, investors called her fearless, competitors called her impossible to defeat. But behind every magazine cover stood a lonely woman who returned each evening to an enormous house filled with silence. Celeste had achieved everything except the one dream money couldn't buy. She wanted to become a mother. Years of endless meetings, international travel, and sacrificing relationships had quietly stolen precious time. Multiple medical consultations confirmed the painful truth. If she wanted a child, she had very little time remaining. She refused to marry simply for appearances. She refused to bring a child into a loveless relationship. Then, over several months, she began noticing someone who never realized she was watching. Every afternoon around 4 o'clock, Owen left work exactly on time. No excuses, no overtime, no networking. One rainy afternoon she accidentally saw why. Standing near the company entrance, Owen opened a tiny pink umbrella over Ivy while kneeling to zip her backpack. Before climbing into their old car, he handed her the last sandwich from his lunchbox because she'd forgotten hers at school. He smiled as though giving away his own meal meant absolutely nothing. That image never left Celeste's mind. Over the following months she quietly observed dozens of small moments. Owen reading homework inside the cafeteria during his break. Fixing a broken toy another employee's child had dropped during family day. Helping elderly security guards carry heavy boxes. Comforting a frightened intern trapped briefly inside an elevator. He never asked for recognition. He simply cared. One evening Celeste requested his employment records. His performance was excellent. No disciplinary actions. Community volunteer. Excellent references. Most importantly, everyone described him with the same words. Honest, patient, kind. The qualities she wanted her future child to inherit. When Celeste finally asked him into her office, Owen assumed he had accidentally damaged company property. Instead she calmly explained her situation. She wasn't asking for romance. She wasn't asking for marriage. She simply wanted the chance to become a mother with someone whose character she respected more than any billionaire she had ever met. Owen stared through the enormous office windows while thousands of thoughts collided inside his mind. He wasn't shocked because she was beautiful. He wasn't shocked because she was rich. He was shocked because nobody had ever valued his heart before. Still, he quietly declined. His entire world belonged to Ivy. Anything that complicated her life frightened him. For several weeks everything returned to normal. At least on the surface. But destiny rarely gives up after hearing no. Late one afternoon Ivy collapsed during soccer practice. Doctors diagnosed a serious blood disorder requiring expensive long-term treatment. Insurance covered only part of the medical costs. Owen emptied every savings account. Sold his late wife's jewelry. Worked weekends. Skipped meals. Still it wasn't enough. One rainy evening he sat alone inside the hospital parking lot wondering how long determination could compete against impossible numbers. Without warning, someone knocked gently on his car window. Celeste stood there holding 2 cups of coffee. She hadn't come as his CEO. She came simply as another human being. She quietly listened while Owen poured out every fear he had buried beneath years of strength. Instead of offering money, she offered something far greater. Partnership, not business, not obligation, partnership in facing life honestly. Over the following months they spent countless afternoons visiting Ivy after work. At first Ivy called her, Miss Rowan. Eventually she simply called her, Cece. Celeste never tried replacing Ivy's mother. She simply became another safe person in the little girl's world. Hospital corridors slowly transformed strangers into friends. Laughter replaced awkward silence. Shared meals replaced lonely evenings. Trust grew one ordinary day at a time. Eventually Owen realized something unexpected. Celeste wasn't searching for perfection. She carried invisible wounds too. Growing up surrounded by wealth but starved of affection had taught her success couldn't hug you after a difficult day. Board meetings couldn't celebrate birthdays. Luxury couldn't replace family. One sunny afternoon they visited a children's charity event sponsored by Rowan Global. Watching Owen patiently teach children how to build birdhouses from recycled wood, Celeste noticed something beautiful. He never treated children differently based on who their parents were. Rich, poor, confident, shy, every child received the same smile. That evening Owen finally understood why she'd chosen him. Not because he was extraordinary. Because he consistently chose kindness when nobody was watching. Months later, after countless conversations, counseling sessions, legal planning, and heartfelt discussions about responsibility, Owen made a decision that surprised even himself. He agreed, not out of financial desperation, not because she was wealthy, but because somewhere along the journey they had already become family. Life, however, had one more surprise waiting. Several weeks after beginning the process, doctors discovered something astonishing. Against every prediction, Celeste had conceived naturally. When she tearfully showed Owen the medical report, neither of them spoke for several seconds. He simply whispered, almost unable to believe the words leaving his mouth. "I'm going to be a father again." For the first time in years. Celeste cried without hiding behind professional composure. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Complications required constant monitoring. Meanwhile Ivy continued fighting her own illness with incredible bravery. Instead of competing for attention, the unborn baby somehow gave Ivy renewed purpose. Every hospital visit ended with Ivy kissing Celeste's growing belly and promising to become the best big sister in the world. Employees across Rowan Global noticed remarkable changes. Their once intimidating CEO smiled more often. She visited departments instead of remaining isolated in executive offices. Employee childcare benefits expanded. Flexible schedules became standard. Mental health programs appeared. Scholarships for single parents were introduced. Nobody understood the reason behind these changes. Only Owen knew. Love had quietly transformed leadership. 9 months later, under the bright morning sunlight of early spring, Celeste gave birth to a healthy little boy. Owen held his son for the first time with trembling hands. He remembered standing beside another hospital bed years earlier saying goodbye to the woman he loved. Now he stood inside another hospital room welcoming new life. Grief had not disappeared, it had simply made room for hope. Ivy slowly climbed beside her father's chair and gently touched her baby brother's tiny fingers. Her smile filled every corner of the room brighter than the morning sun. Years passed. Ivy recovered beyond everyone's expectations. Doctors called her progress remarkable. Owen called it a miracle. The little boy grew surrounded by bedtime stories, family picnics, scraped knees, school concerts, laughter, forgiveness, and endless reminders that character mattered more than wealth. People often assumed Rowan Global's greatest success was its billion-dollar valuation. They were wrong. Its greatest success was the family quietly built from compassion instead of convenience. Celeste often reflected on the afternoon she had nervously asked one impossible question inside a silent boardroom. She had believed she was searching for a father for her future child. Instead, she had unknowingly found an entire family. Sometimes life doesn't reward the richest people. It rewards the kindest hearts willing to keep loving after unimaginable loss. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Legacy. Your support allows us to continue creating stories that remind people kindness can still change lives. Heart special request. Before this story ends, please comment below, kind hearts always find their way home. We'd love to read your thoughts and spread your message of hope with others. As the sun set behind their family home one warm afternoon, Owen watched Ivy race across the backyard while her little brother laughed from a swing Celeste gently pushed. The wealth surrounding them no longer mattered. The titles, awards, and headlines faded into the background. What remained was something far rarer. A family built not by perfect timing or perfect circumstances, but by courage, compassion, and the simple decision to believe that broken hearts can love again. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin with the smallest act of kindness, and sometimes one impossible question leads to the most beautiful answer a family could ever find.